What's up, guys? Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today's video, we are talking about my top 5 baits for the month of May. May fishing, springtime, right? It's springtime, it's warm, the water temps are moving up. You have fish in all 3 phases. That is the most important thing. You got pre-spawn, you got spawners, and you actually have some post-spawn fish. And so you can literally catch fish in all 3 phases of the spawn. And that's what makes May so different, special, right? So it is the beginning of those post-spawn fish. You start thinking about deep fish, you start thinking about ledge fish. You know, we've always kind of taught that after the spawn, post-spawn, that half the fish stay shallow and half the fish go deep. Your ledge fish, the rock pile fish, you know, and then on the flip side, you have those fish that are up in shallow cover. You know, that's where you catch them on your frogs, all that good stuff. You're up flipping, pitching, punching. Eventually, those are going to be your shallow summer fish. But then you also have the fish that are going deep and going out to your ledges, those first breaks back off of those spawning bays. So May can be tricky, but I want you guys to go out there with a lot of confidence. So I have these baits for you lined up because these are our top 5 baits for the month of May, depending on if you're gonna be going after the deep fish or the shallow fish. So my number 1 bait is gonna be a crankbait. If you're staying shallow, go with a square bill. You know, this is the BDS 3 by Lucky Craft. It's a silent bait. If you want a bait with rattle in it, go with the Biggie. That is by River to Sea. That's got a nice rattle chamber in it. But that BDS 3 is a silent bait, so go with a square bill. If you guys are on the deep side and you're gonna go after those ledge fish, those post-spawn deeper fish, still crankbait, but go with a deep diving crankbait. Either our Tactical or the Strike King 6XD. Those are 2 of our favorites. Again, May, those fish, if you're going off those deep fish, they're going to be pulling out of those spawning bays. Look for those closest rock piles or break off ledges, if you will, closest to those spawning bays. Those fish are going to stage up on there before they truly go deep and move to their summer pattern. But again, fish are staying shallow, go with that square bill. You're going to have a lot of grass starting to come up. Another key factor that really plays into the month of May is going to be the shad spawn. Those of you guys that aren't familiar with that, low light conditions, either early in the morning or late in the evening, you have the shad spawn up super shallow. So that's why I typically stay shallow. I'm going with that square bill, but that leads me to my next bait, and that's going to be a spinner bait. You know, specifically, this is that Demiki TOT double willow blades. Got that Largo shad on the back, but that is specifically the 1/2 ounce, and here's why. I want to be able to move it quickly. I want to get those blades going. I want this bait to run true, but I want to be able to fish it up shallow without getting hung up. So a spinner bait, again, that shad spawn, those fish are up shallow eating. The shad, a lot of times they'll come up busting, and you can really put the hurting on them with a shad profile, shad colored spinner bait. Again, double willow. Again, that's that Demiki TOT specifically. Really love that spinner bait paired up with that Largo shad. And then playing in with that whole shad spawn deal, instead of throwing a chatterbait or something like that, I'm actually gonna go with a lipless. But here's the thing, we're gonna go the burn, pause, retrieve. You know, we're not doing the slow hop. We don't wanna get up shallow. I think Matt addressed this earlier in, I don't know, a few videos ago about getting up shallow, throwing a lipless crankbait, getting hung up and having to go up there either to break your bait off or get your bait unhung, and destroying the whole shallow water area that you're fishing. Again, be quiet, turn your electronics off, be sneaky, stealthy, but when the shad spawn is going, those fish are gonna be up shallow, and that lipless crankbait is another go-to. Again, square bill, lipless crank, but I'm going with a lighter lipless crank. I'm going with a rattle trap. I'm not going to be going with my LV500, that 3/4 ounce bait. Talked about that in a previous video too, but going to go with a shallow running light weight lipless crank. That rattle trap, one of my favorites. Again, got those EWG hooks on there, little hook points bent in to help remain weedless as best as possible. But again, you're firing up shallow and you're just burning this thing. Pause it, change up your cadence a little bit, but don't let that thing hit ground very often, because you don't want to get hung up, don't want to get snagged, and have to go up there and either one, lose your bait, or two, mess up the area that you're fishing. You know, that is a key. Do not do that. Don't make that mistake. So spinnerbait, talked about that guy. Lipless crank. So we got crankbait, we got spinnerbait, we got lipless crank. Now we're talking topwater. Again, May, it's warm out. These fish will eat a topwater. Primarily, I don't like to throw a quick moving topwater this early in the season. That's when I'm gonna go with a popper, specifically this popper right here. This is the Pop Max by Megabass. This is hands down my favorite popper and my favorite color. That is matte shad, guys. If you don't have these already, you have to at least get one. That matte shad is a special color. I messed them up here last year on. This is a popper that it's the only popper I could get bid on. That guy right there has that cup face. Now the benefit of throwing a popper versus a buzzbait or a whopper plopper or something like that, you know, you don't just cast it out and just reel it back and cover a lot of water. You can really be specific. As these fish pull out from their spawning bays and you start seeing the little bits of cover, maybe a stump or a laydown or a dock piling, something like that, that's what that fish is gonna hold on. So you can throw this popper out there, get right to that key piece of cover or structure, if you will. Bloop, bloop. You can even bloop, 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 get it walking back and forth. But here's the deal with the popper, with that cup face, it's not covering a lot of distance from your cast to the boat. You can keep it right there in that strike zone, move it side to side, and really target cast, really pick those key areas apart, and still be throwing a topwater. You know, the fish haven't seen it all year, right? They haven't seen it since last fall, probably. Depends on the fishery you're on, but for the most part, people stop throwing topwaters late fall, early winter. So you could be the first person on your body of water to give them a presentation they haven't seen for several months. So you could go with a frog. You know, if you're really fishing vegetation, you could go with a frog, but for me, it's gonna be that popper. Now, I just said vegetation, that kind of triggered something else in my mind too. That's another reason that I go with that lighter lipless. Again, May, water's warming up, that vegetation's growing up off the bottom. Those fish, when they pull off the beds, that's what they're looking for, right? As they're going to beds, if they're still pre-spawn, they're gonna look for those lively clumps of grass. So if you can find those new lively clumps of grass, that's what's gonna hold your bass, that's what's gonna hold your bait fish, and that's where the lipless crank, that spinner bait, and that shallow run-in square bill can really work wonders on those shallow fish. So as an angler, be looking for those key pieces of structure, stumps, little shallow rock piles, laydowns, little deep water breaks, and then look for that fresh grass. Back to the baits. Next one up is gonna be an interchangeable bait. Gonna talk to you about the Senko and the fluke. Again, the reason I'm combining these two, not that they're the same bait, but they can be rigged or fished on the same hook. EWG 3/0 Superline, you can fish a fluke, you can fish a 5-inch Senko. Vice versa, you can wacky rig a Senko, you can nose hook a fluke. But here's the deal. If you're on a fishery that has the shad spawn going on, a fluke, up shallow, you know, it's that weedless jerk bait, right? It's a bait that has a lot of action, has kind of that dying movement, if you will, that fall. A fluke can really shine up shallow in cover, rigged weedless like that. On the flip side, the Senko, you guys already know, I did a video a few weeks back about, is this the #1 spring bait? So many big fish are caught on a weightless wacky rig Senko or a Texas rig Senko, but again, they're interchangeable. So fast forward, you see that stump or you see that lay down and you want to slow fish it, you know, pick that female that just came off the bed, she's hungry, she's up there in that cover, skip that little weightless 5-inch Senko for an easy meal. That is my 1 and 2 interchangeable. So these are combined. They're not the same thing. They don't go after the same fish. If you're on that shad spawn or if you're on aggressive fish, maybe they're blowing up and you're trying to get them on the popper, but you can't. You throw that little Texas rigged fluke in there and let that thing rip, let it dance all over and then fall down like a dying bait fish and let those big post-spawn females have a little bite. That guy right there, and then obviously that 5-inch Senko, wacky rigged or Texas rigged on the same hook. So those are interchangeable. So that's my number 4. Now, last but not least, you guys know that in April, Matt did his video and his number 1 bait was the Senko. It could be right up there as well in May, but I'm gonna switch and I'm gonna say shaky head. Now here's the deal about the shaky head. You know, you're slow fishing the weightless wacky rig Senko. The shaky head, obviously, it's a little more weedless. It's Texas rigged, got more stout of a hook, a little bit of weight there, so you can fish it deeper. So you can actually go after those deeper post-spawn fish, go out to that first break, go out to that rock pile, and throw that T-Mac on there and fish for those bigger post-spawn fish. Or you can go shallow, right where you would flip or pitch or throw a frog. You can throw that shaky head in there and target those shallow fish as well. You guys know that we love natural colors, especially up shallow in the springtime. Green pumpkin, electric shad, bait fish, natural colors. In the summer, we love June bug, you know, that real bright kind of purple with some flake in it. But right now, it's all about that transition. So what better color to throw than this guy right here? This is Bama bug, the best of both worlds. You have a green pumpkin, black flake on top, and then underneath you have the June bug color. So a little bit of flash. A lot of times in May you'll still have those late spring storms kind of muddy up, dingy up the water. So adding a little bit of flash, going a little bit away from that natural, adding a little bit of June bug flash to it. Bama bug is a must, so definitely pick up that color in whatever soft plastic you're throwing. Again, that's that T-Mac, and that's paired up on that Dirty Jig shaky head. But a shaky head, you can power fish it, you can throw it on heavy line, you can finesse fish it, throw it on a light line. Totally depends on the fishery, water clarity, and the size of fish you're going after. But that guy right there is gonna be in my top 5. So, just to reiterate, crankbait, either shallow or deep, shad spawns going on, go with that, that spinnerbait. Spinnerbait, if you want, you can interchange the lipless crank. You know, as you're fishing the grass, as you're ripping through the grass, burning the tops of the grass, both of these are awesome. Specifically that TOT, that Damiki double willow. If you want to throw top water, go with a popper. Stay away from the fast moving baits unless you're on a body of water that has a little bit warmer water. But that popper right there, especially that color, matte shad, guys. If you haven't fished anything matte shad, the jerk baits, whatever they are, get yourself some matte shad. But that guy right there, these guys, fluke or Senko, and then the shaky head. Guys, fishing, just trying to simplify it for you. These videos are always fun to try and to dream up, because you always have these special scenarios in your head, right? You're like, well, what if I get on a big topwater bite? Or what if I get on this bite or that bite? But you're literally taking everything in play and trying to break it down into just 5 categories, so it's a lot of fun. But I'm gonna end this video before my neighbor starts mowing his lawn. But as always, guys, we appreciate you. I wanna hear your thoughts down below in the comments section, so leave us a comment. Like to hear what baits work best for you in the month of May. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for the support. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next video.